So everyone's playing Sons of the Forest. And for a game that I personally have been extremely excited to play, I bring you a new series starting from just day one.
Last signal was from 500 feet below ground. 7 months ago. You're not gonna find anyone alive down there.
Now, although this isn't my first playthrough, I still have only scratched the surface of this game's story. I have, however, seen some guides and tips to start off my first day better than I have before. So after gathering some supplies, and of course getting Kelvin, I was off to my first destination. One of the first things I found through my first playthrough was that starting off trying to find the right spot to build your wooden mansion was not a good way to start. Instead, I decided to go straight to some of the markers shown on the GPS. This worked out great because I started my first day with plenty of supplies, a temporary hideout, and found a 3D printer. Something I wanted to mention was how good the developers did designing the environments. From the caves to the other seasons and especially inside of the forest itself, this game looks amazing, and you could tell that the developers put a lot of time into making it look that way. I feel that the 3D printer is a great mechanic in the game, and it gives you really good resources to start the game off. If you can, I recommend during your first day to go whichever green circle on the GPS is closest to you, for a high chance of starting off your game with a really good boost. As you'll see later in this video, I got quite unlucky with the mask. However, I think once I learn how to use it better, it could become really handy. After printing out a few items being the mask, a tech mask, and a flask, I went over to the light at the end of the tunnel, but to my disappointment, there wasn't much over there besides a locked door needing a card to get through. This did, however, get me very curious, and I'm excited to find the card later down the line. Now back outside, I wanted to craft a spear, because during my first playthrough, I found it very useful. The fact that you can throw it at animals or the cannibals makes it way easier to cut them down right after with the axe. Also, keeping whatever you use the most, especially your main weapons, in the backpack will make it way easier to pull them out in urgent situations. To access your backpack instead of your inventory, just hold down whatever button you press to open your inventory. As I mentioned earlier, I printed out the flask. Even though I don't recommend setting up camp nowhere near a river or pond, If you're forced into one of these situations, which could happen, having a flask gets way more useful. While heading over to one of the purple markers, I stumbled across a cannibal camp, and while gathering resources, Kelvin did the funkiest run I've ever seen to let me know we weren't alone. If you remember earlier when I said I got unlucky with the mask, it was for this moment. I'm not too sure if it was the fact that Kelvin was there, but this guy was not convinced I was cannibal. Unfortunately, while trying to save Kelvin, I did not fully survive my first day. Or Kelvin. But at least we respawn, right? Another spotlight I wanted to shine on the developers was the respawn animations. Not only are they very unique, but depending on where you die, there are different animations. My favorite definitely being the ocean respawn. A quick tip for after you die is just leave the camp. You already have low health and there's usually more than 2 cannibals at each camp anyways. But do not forget your inventory. I've made this mistake way too many times. Once I got to the first purple marker, I was greeted well with this. To get to him, you have to go to the top and cut the rope with your axe. When you get back, you can find a flashlight and a device that shows you marker icons. At the moment, the flashlight is definitely the more useful of the two. The flashlight will especially be useful when you're in a cave, because right now the lighter is just not good. Towards the end of the day, I made it to one more bunker. While this bunker had a way better entryway, it was a bit disappointing. The reason being that there was barely any resources besides food, which is useful, but compared to the 3D printer, there was nothing special here. Also, unlike the other bunker, you couldn't really temporarily stay here since there was no bed. This bunker had a locked door as well, and made me wonder if the card needed was universal or there is 2 cards to find. Now, at the end of day 1, I gave Kelvin one more task to do, and that was to build a shelter. And after saving and sleeping, I was on to day 2. If you guys enjoyed day 1 of Sons of the Forest and want to see more, then consider subscribing and turning on notifications so you don't miss the next one. I'm also going to be giving my review on Sons of the Forest within the next few days, so stay tuned for that as well. I hope to see you guys in the next one. Peace.